Welcome to the Perfectly Blended Podcast. On today's episode, we're talking with family law attorney from New York, and her name is Jackie Harounian, and that's coming up
right now.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Perfectly Blended Podcast. This podcast is for blended families, for couples that want to strengthen their marriage and want a brighter future. Perfectly Blended exists to break the stigma of divorce, drop the shame and guilt holding you back, and equip marriages to thrive instead of just survive. We believe all that is possible in this life is based on the power of Jesus Christ and His ability to restore us fully. Let's dive in. Welcome to today's show. I am Josh, and I am here with the always wonderful, beautiful Miss Christy.
Hello.
How are you, love?
I'm awesome.
Jeez, awesome. That's awesome. So before we jump right into this amazing interview today, tell everybody a little something, because you always do.
I can't really think of nothing.
We ain't got nothing today. There's nothing on the Christy mind.
We're planning a family vacation next year for Tennessee.
Yeah, we're going to Tennessee.
We rented a cabin in Tennessee, and we're taking all of our kids and the grandbaby and all the dogs.
We're doing it. We're going, and we're going to live among the bears. Tennessee and Gatlinburg.
Yeah, so I'm excited.
We've been a lot of places. We've been a lot of ocean, tropical, those types of vacations, but we've never done a mountain style one. So all the kids would rather do that. So I guess we can do one vacation for them.
I know, boo.
So we're doing that next year. Anyway, so without further ado, we want to introduce you to, this is an amazing, amazing interview. We were really excited about this. Now, we had the pleasure of meeting Jackie, and she is an actual family law attorney. It's funny how much her experience can help a blended family. So we're really going to encourage you to stick through, watch this interview. It's going to be amazing. We have so much that we can ask her and so much that she can offer you. So stay tuned to this, and we want to introduce you to Jackie. Okay, everybody, we want to welcome Jackie Harounian. If you don't know who she is, this is the episode you're definitely going to want to pay attention to. She is a family law attorney from New York. So, Jackie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm really, really looking forward to speaking with both of you.
Yeah, we're so excited that you're here. So
I'm most excited, more than him.
It's always her. So before we jump in and really get into the meat of what we want to talk about today, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, your family, how you are and who you are.
Sure, of course. So my practice is in New York. I was actually born in New Jersey, so I've been in the Northeast most of my life, and I'm married for more than 30 years. I have 4 children, and I have practiced divorce law for more than 25 years, and I actually have a degree in psychology as well. So I've always brought a little bit of a mental health focus to my divorce practice. Because I've been practicing for so long, and because I'm very traditional myself, and I have a religious background, my parents were Middle Eastern immigrants, I've always had faith as a very big part of my marriage. I've always been a little bit of an outlier as a divorce attorney. As I was telling both of you before, I frequently talk people out of divorce. I don't think divorce is always the answer. A lot of times people come to me struggling with different types of challenges, whether it's mental health or substance abuse or challenges with their teenagers. And what it does is it drives parents apart. And a lot of times they target each other when really they should be working together to try to support each other and try to get past these challenges. At the same time, there are some marriages that cannot be saved, especially I'm thinking of domestic violence or cases where it's simply not safe for people to live together, or they reach such a state of unhappiness that it's just not going to be feasible to stay together. But even in those cases, I'm seeing a new paradigm of friendlier divorces where people really try to move past their challenges and co-parent and try to live happier lives and learn from the lessons that they're meant to learn. My firm is Wisselman, Harounian Family Law. We're one of the largest family law practices in the New York area. And my approach to these types of conflicts really has been successful. And I'm very passionate about what I do. And I have a wonderful team of over 22 employees, almost 25 employees, that we're a great team. We really try to give the right advice to individuals and families that are going through very hard times, especially during the pandemic. As we discussed before, a lot of people are really, really struggling financially in their relationships. Their worlds are upside down. There's a lot of uncertainty. And that really translates to, unfortunately, a higher degree of divorce and family law inquiries.
Yeah, having, the client for you, having a client be the center really, and not necessarily, just
Money.
going to court or just financial gain, right? Having the client at the core of it really makes a difference, because ultimately these things impact people's lives. I mean, Christy and I, we've told you before, Christy and I have been divorced, and whether we like it or not, when you become a blended family, 99.9% of people need to contact a firm like you. Yeah. We have to get a hold of you. We have to. So we have to put the future of a lot of things that we are completely unknown about. You're the specialist, you're the pro. We have to put so many things in your hands, and to know that you have our best interest at heart. Yeah. Just makes such a world of difference. That's why we really wanted to have you on here, to really kind of let everybody hear a personal side. Yeah. Not just thinking, oh, I have to hire an attorney now because I'm going through this thing in life, but get to hear more of the personal person behind someone that actually cares for them. And so we just really appreciate that.
Thank you. My pleasure. I really think, first of all, people have to be careful who they hire for any professional or any situation. It really is caveat emptor. It's buyer beware. Mm-hmm. You are responsible as a person for the attorney you hire, for the process that you take on. If you take your case into court for no reason, you are going to pay the price. Your spouse will pay the price, and so will your children. Yeah. When cases are kept out of court, either by mediation or by negotiated settlements, it's the same process all over the country. You basically have an option to resolve your case out of court or go into court. You have an option of resolving things or sort of escalating things. And children, for sure, pay the price, and teenagers especially pay the price. And so I really think most parents are well-meaning. Most parents really do love their children. What happens is they get very caught up in the emotion and in the anger and in the uncertainty and the fear. And the lawyer they choose can either exploit that or get them to really understand what their options are. Maybe slow down their decision making, because a lot of times when I tell people, listen, you don't have to make a decision right this minute. Why don't you take the time to consider your options? And a lot of times when they hear a professional tell them that, it just leads to better choices. Yeah. And if the choice is going to be mutually to have a divorce, it's not a tragedy, like the two of you can attest. It is survivable, but surely you don't want to live with regret and make a decision that's based on bad information.
Yeah. Definitely. And we talk about it all the time on our podcast. We've been very open, with everyone. Like, yes, we have a great marriage, but if you can prevent from putting your kids with having to go to two different houses, splitting up birthdays, splitting up holidays, it is so hard on them. And they do feel like they're in the middle with loyalty lines and things like that. And it's so hard for parents, which we've seen with other blended couples that we work with, is that it's hard for the couples, the parents, to put aside their emotions and not put the kids in the middle. Like, if the kid comes home and says, well, dad was saying this about you. And it's like, I know that's hard, but you do not bash the other parent back. I know that's always hard to do. Yeah. And that if you can prevent from putting your kids through that, don't do it, because that's still their dad. That's still their mom. Mm-hmm. And you have to be adults in the situation. A lot of times you got to put the emotion aside and prevent that from happening, because it is tough.
100%. I'm always telling my clients, always remember, your kids didn't ask for this. They didn't ask to be put in the middle of a war. You should always take every step you can to make the divorce easier for your children. Yeah. Be generous with a custody schedule. Be generous with child support. Be fair about dividing up assets. Don't stay in the divorce process any longer than you have to. Make things okay for your child, whatever that means. I mean, if they have activities that they enjoy, if they want to go to a special camp, if there's something they want to do with the other parent, I really think those are dollars well spent, and those are good decisions to make. How can you make your child's experience just a little bit easier? Yeah. Because it is difficult, but it is survivable. Most children will bounce back. They will be okay in the end, especially if the conflict comes to an end. Yeah. And parents need to work together a little bit better. I am constantly telling my clients, and many divorce attorneys too, take the high road. Do the right thing. Yeah. You don't have to engage in a battle. And this is something all of us need to do. It's not just in the context of divorce. With your own family members, with your coworkers, with your fellow Americans. Why engage in conflict if you don't have to? You don't have to agree. You don't have to even get along, but you can respect one another. Yep. You can respect your co-parent. You can be civilized.
Yeah.
You know, you can do what you can to really bring down the emotional temperature in any given situation. And that's what's going to lead to a better outcome for your child.
Yeah. So true.
So Jackie, why family law? Where in the past when you decided to go and you're this is the career path you want to go, why did you choose family law?
That's a very good question, and I'm asked that all the time. And I guess I have to say family law really found me. If I wasn't a family law attorney, I probably would have gone into psychology. I find relationships to be extremely interesting. And as I mentioned before, I actually have an advanced degree in psychology. And when I went to law school, I was already a young mom. I graduated college a little early. I got married when I was 20. Did I mention I have Middle Eastern parents? It was sort of required. You know, you get married, you don't date. And so I married very young, and I very fortunate that I married a wonderful man that I'm still married to. Was always very supportive of my career. And because I already had a child when I went to law school, I instantly connected to the issues of family law. And this is almost 30 years ago, where women had very prescribed roles as caregivers and men were always the breadwinners. That's what the reality was for almost all families 30 years ago.
Yep.
Today it's very different. And I'm speaking mostly about New York law, but really across the country, most fathers have joint custody. A lot of fathers are very involved and interested in being active with raising their children. And a lot of moms are working. So it's a very different set of laws today. Family law has always kept my interest, and resolving conflict is something I'm very good at. I'm not scared of emotion. It doesn't bother me when people are fighting. I'm very good at getting in the middle there, calming people down, either as a mediator or as an attorney, to show them the way out of the conflict, that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, that life will move forward, and that we can make this okay as long as they're willing to have some role in resolving the situation. So family law is very interesting. There's no more interesting practice, in my opinion. It's because people are so interesting and their conflicts are so interesting, and they need help resolving those conflicts.
Yeah, I love how you say that family law found you. So I believe, this is my belief, is when we're doing something in life and we feel like our faith is pulling our way, because you're saying your faith is a big part of who you are. It's funny how when we allow our heart to be connected to that, it really allows us to really excel in that way, because we're doing it for the right reasons and not the wrong reasons, which ultimately helps you really serve your clients at a level that really ultimately is serving them the most and not you. And that's just that's awesome to hear. I like hearing that. It's a beautiful thing.
Thank you. I really do think in some ways, I want to be humble about it. I feel like it is a calling. It is something that I'm good at. It's something that I've developed expertise in. And I really feel like it's my purpose to help people. And my firm, we have 11 attorneys. We offer a free consultation. We always serve the public for free. We've done that with support groups. We've done it with alliances, with victim services, with domestic violence agencies. I mean, pretty much anyone can email me or call me, and I will try to help. And that is a good business model. Helping people and being known for helping people it's just a good look for a divorce attorney. I wish more of them would do it, because we are at a point where we can help people in crisis, and it really is good for the bottom line. I'm very fortunate to be able to have such a large team to help me do that. If I was a solo practitioner, which many divorce attorneys, they work by themselves, or they might have one secretary. They don't have the time to necessarily serve the public. I'm very blessed and fortunate to have that opportunity. And I can make a positive impact on people's lives, which is really a great feeling.
Yeah, that's great. So I was looking at your website, right? So if you go to Lawjaw, LAWJAW, which I'll put everything in the show notes, if you could go there and check out this website, something that I really loved, and I was telling Christy about it when I was going through it. At the top, I had to write them all down, because it's all the tabs at the top of the website, right? There's family law, there's divorce, there's child custody and support, domestic violence, and estate planning and prenups. And now, if you are in a blended family, all of these darts hit you all the way around. And so ultimately, and a lot of times, and even us, right? We've been doing our podcast for a long time. We've done 120 some episodes. We've done a lot of this. We never really think about how important it is to have a professional like you to be involved in the processes. This isn't
Yeah.
all just divorce. This isn't all just divorce things. There's so much more going on, because if we look at domestic violence, it's raised so much higher when we look at divorced families. If we look at prenups, I mean, that speaks into probably the majority. I mean, you would know better than me, but that speaks into the majority of
Especially
second, third, and fourth
remarriages,
marriages.
yeah.
Remarriages and child custody. I mean, this is, so it's just amazing to see, you know, when I was sitting there and I was looking at all these tabs at the top of your website, I'm like, yep. And it all just hits us. So my question really from this, I thought that was interesting, but my question really derives from when you look at all of these things, what do you feel like is the highest level impact that you deal with when it comes to second, third, fourth marriages, blended family stuff?
Yeah. You know, in second marriages, or even, you know, there's a lot of trends going on in this country that have been accelerated by the pandemic, and people are getting married later. It used to be, a generation ago, it was very common for men and women to get married in their very early 20s. And in some parts of the country, there is early marriage like that, especially in religious communities. But by and large, there's a trend for women to go to college or start careers, and marriages are happening, let's say, mid to late 20s. And a lot of times people in their mid to late 20s already have assets. They already have contributed to a 401k, or they already own a house in some cases, or they have other assets. And a prenuptial agreement is very important. It's important if you have assets. It's important if you're getting married for a second time. It's extremely important if you have children and are getting remarried.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with estate planning. Estate planning and family law are really merging in many ways. And it's part of financial planning. If you're getting married and you have children, or you're getting married and you have assets, it would almost be irresponsible not to have a prenup or to have an estate plan and to protect your assets, because the divorce rate is still high enough that it's a huge risk to get married and not protect what you have. And also, if God forbid you were to pass away and you're married, your spouse has certain inheritance rights. A prenup is a way to protect the inheritance rights for the children of your first marriage, or children that you have. So it's a way to protect children. All of this is about proactive financial planning. Not everyone is on board with it. Plenty of people don't even have a basic will. But I hope everyone listening to me today, I mean, if you have children, if you're over the age of 40, you should have a will. You should have a basic will that provides for your children. It's not expensive. There are ways you can get a will for just a few $100s, and it is the right thing to do. It provides peace of mind. And in every state in this country, you can find attorneys that will do it for a reasonable cost. It's just a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
Prenup is something that I call divorce insurance. You'd be foolish not to have a prenup if you're getting married, if you are over the age of 30, if you have assets to protect, if you have children. And one of the biggest trends with prenups is spousal support. People will waive spousal support. The new generation of millennials that are getting married actually are marrying later. They usually have a much lower divorce rate, which is very surprising for people. Young people marrying today are choosing better than their parents and grandparents. They are choosing partners that are shared faith, also having careers or educated. They're just making better choices for better reasons. And that does translate to a lower divorce rate. But they're also doing prenups. They're smart. And something we need to take away the stigma of prenuptial agreements. In New York, where I live, I'm sure it's the same in Michigan, there are a lot of women that earn the same as their spouse. There are a lot of women that earn more. And that's great. I have no problem with that. And most men don't either. They like having a partner that's educated and maybe can help them pay the bills. A prenuptial agreement is a great way to say, if this marriage doesn't work out, we're not going to have to support each other. We'll support children. You have to always support children you have. But in a prenuptial agreement, a lot of people want to agree in advance that they're not going to pay support for a spouse.
How do you get around the emotional side of that, though? When people come to you and they have a couple and they're like, how do you deal with that?
You know, it's becoming less and less of an emotional issue. The main thing with prenups is you don't do it too close to the wedding. The conversation should be several months before.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, they'll say, this is something my accountant is recommending, or I own a business, or I own a house, and this is something that I really need, is important to me. And you'd be surprised. People usually can finalize prenups without too much emotion, as long as it's explained properly. as long as it's fair. A prenup should be fair. You
Yeah.
can't have an agreement that's one-sided. It does have to be a fair agreement. And it's a great way to find out who you're marrying, because part of the prenup process is you have to disclose all of your assets and all of your debts. One of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships is they make a commitment to someone without any idea that
Yeah.
there's student loan debt, there's IRS debt, there's credit card debt, there's supporting a child from another marriage, and they don't say anything until after these are big secrets.
Yeah.
And secrets are not good for relationships. They destroy trust. So
Yeah.
a prenup is very transparent, and having a joint bank account and talking about money, which is sort of a new thing too. It's very important to be comfortable talking about money, especially if both of you are working, especially if you want to have a long and healthy relationship. Don't be afraid to talk about money,
Yeah.
and talk about debt and talk about saving up for a house or whatever it is. Couples that talk about money and are not afraid and don't keep secrets just do a better job in avoiding divorce.
Yeah, I agree.
I do too.
Yeah.
So what do you think would be like the main answer to avoid divorce altogether when people come out after over 25 years? Like, what's the biggest thing that they could do to avoid divorce?
The first thing that breaks down, first of all, avoid divorce attorneys. That's my number one answer. Just don't.
That's funny.
But the main thing is communication. The first thing that breaks down and what leads to going to a divorce attorney is parties stop communicating.
Yeah.
They stop connecting in the bedroom. They stop caring about where are we going for dinner or can we plan a vacation. Just that communication breaks down, and suddenly it becomes what the marriage is all about. We don't speak. We don't talk. There's no intimacy. We don't do things together as a family.
Yeah.
It's just apathy that kind of becomes part of what the marriage is about. Not connecting. Everyone's on their phones or spending time separate, going out separately with friends, going on separate vacations, disrespecting each other, spending money in ways that are disrespectful, or engaging in activities that are not what the marriage was really based on.
Yeah.
Communication is very important for any relationship.
Yeah.
It's vital to keeping a relationship healthy. So I would start there. Keep that connection strong. And if you need help, go to someone that you trust as a mediator or a marriage counselor or a faith leader. There are people that can really give you good pointers on how to reconnect and have better communication. And when couples share their thoughts and their goals and their fears and they reconnect, that can save a relationship. It happens all the time.
Yeah, we've realized in helping other couples, especially in blended families, we've noticed that the number one breakdown is communication. And it's funny because when we leave one broken relationship, when we go into another, we feel like trust is an issue. We don't want to be hurt. We need to be protective of some things. And so we've realized you have to be willing to risk again. And part of the breakdown is what you're saying, even from first marriages, once they're ending, was most likely a communication issue. It was you already were breaking down. So don't carry that on to the new relationship. So and I would imagine in your position is and it's something that you enjoy to do, but you are probably a counselor 80% of the time. Wouldn't you say that's true?
Yeah, I mean, there are small things you can do to foster a relationship. I mean, for my husband and I, we like to travel. There's always a trip being planned. We're always looking forward to something. And a lot of times it's family trips with our children. We'll make frequent plans to go out to dinner. We celebrate birthdays. It's the little things that really do matter. And when relationships start to break down, it's those little things that suddenly go away. And that becomes the new status quo of the relationship. And then slowly the relationship dies. When you stop celebrating birthdays and holidays and caring for each other in those ways, it damages the relationship. It damages the bond.
Yeah.
And many people are living that way. There are a lot of people living in loveless marriages. I'm not going to judge it. I mean, there are people that live in separate bedrooms. There's nothing to judge there. But there are people that are happy in those types of platonic relationships, and they're living sort of parallel lives. And that's especially a generation ago, our parents and grandparents, that is how they live. That's not the model for today. I think most people today, younger people, want to have a more dynamic, fulfilling marriage. So it takes work to make that happen. You've got to do your part.
Yeah, so good. If you were gonna have a couple that was considering a divorce or considering help, they need help in general, and they were going to come to you, and you had your greatest piece of advice, something that you feel as though that you're going to get, you could just give them, and it was just going to be the most amazing piece of advice that you could give them, what would it be?
You mean advice in terms of getting divorced or staying married, or you're not sure?
Staying married.
Staying married. If you to not hire you, they don't want to hire you. What can they do to avoid?
Well, I'd like to elaborate because she's like, communication's the biggest thing. So what big piece of advice, because you already know, no matter what they tell you, well, it's our kids or it's this, it all roots down to communication, all of it. So what would be an awesome piece of advice to help them get that communication back?
Right.
Off of that.
I think, there's nothing wrong with giving each other some space. If you have the opportunity to maybe be in separate bedrooms for a while, just to give each other space, because sometimes people just want space. They're stressed, they're overwhelmed, and the spouse becomes a target. I think potentially agreeing to go see a counselor, going for a walk together, agreeing to plan a vacation together, give the kids to one of the grandparents for a few days, really take away all the stress points. I think financial transparency is also an important thing. I see a lot of women, especially, that are feeling very powerless financially. They don't know what's going on. They don't have really access to income or assets, and it builds up resentment in a marriage.
Yeah.
I think a good move for a husband in that situation would say, let's sit down, let's meet with our accountant, let me show you where my money comes in, where it goes, how we spend it. Really treat your partner with respect, because you are, in a sense, running a household together, and there should be no secrets, and there really is no hierarchy. I really like the idea of people feeling like equals, or at least not exactly equal, having a seat at the table, being privy to information.
Yeah.
If there are problems with children, instead of targeting each other, maybe you need to speak to a doctor. Maybe you need to have a meeting with the teacher. There might be something going on with one of the children. And I would include, sometimes children have challenges and parents do not agree, and it leads to divorce. So it could be a child that has ADHD or has some other special needs. A lot of times I see the parents are not on the same page. That leads to fighting, and really that shouldn't be. Get the best advice you can about your child. There are children, unfortunately, that might have issues with their sexuality or gender or other things. That leads to divorce.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to. These are things that can be dealt with in a private and sensitive way. It doesn't have to be a clash between the parents. Obviously, all children deserve love. And if they're not getting it and there's conflict at home, it just creates a world of problems. And I can't say I have all the answers on that topic at all, but I can say I do see sometimes issues with children leading to conflict with parents and leading to divorce. And that is a completely preventable situation. The parents need to get on the same page in some way. So go to an expert, get counseling, focus on what the problem is. The problem is not usually one of the parties. It's some other stressor that exists that the two of them need to communicate about, give each other some space, and really figure out where the solutions lie. Sometimes the solution is a divorce. Sometimes you have a party has a problem with anger or is violent or needs to get into substance abuse counseling. I tell you, a lot of times a letter from a divorce lawyer will get someone into substance abuse counseling. They need to see that letter. They need to see that we have reached that point. And I'm happy to say that sometimes that will save the marriage. And that's what that letter is designed to do. And I'm very happy to help facilitate that, create that incentive, because sometimes it needs to happen in that way.
Yeah, something we keep talking about, you keep bringing up, is children. And I think that's, a major thing. It is. I mean, you're talking about it's a major thing. So with blended families, and you do probably a lot of child custody, with your type of work that you have, So we've noticed too, across hearing and, all different people in our space talk about how rough it is for child custody. What kind of advice could you give somebody that's dealing with that? Like what is good, helpful advice dealing with child custody?
Yeah.
There needs to be ground rules in a household regarding blended families, regarding, financial issues, how money is spent. You can't discipline a stepchild that easily. There needs to be consistency, and there need to be ground rules that the adults agree on together. There has to be good communication between both households where the child is living. And if things are not going well, away from the earshot of children, there needs to be a meeting where, I mean, it could be, what are the curfews in both households? What is the use of, the smartphone or video games? Or there's only so many things that can be different in both homes. There needs to be consistency.
Yeah.
And people do fight about that.
Yeah.
And sometimes discipline becomes an issue, and substances with older teenagers becomes an issue. And listen, it creates risk. I have seen marriages break up because of stepchildren that are out of control.
Yeah.
And it creates risk. There's violence. The police are coming. People feel vulnerable.
Yeah.
This is something where parents have to be on the same page. And if there's a child that's acting out, maybe there needs to be a change to the schedule. And it's hard to do because sometimes the child's living with you and you're getting support for that child. It's hard to give up that child support. But maybe the right answer is the child should go live in the other household, even if it creates a financial consequence.
Yeah.
You have to do what's best for the child. And a child who's acting out, and in blended families, a lot of times children do act out.
Yeah.
Because maybe they're just not happy with the change. It's very hard to make changes, and some children don't adapt well to change.
Yeah.
You have to get the best advice possible.
Yeah. Do you have people that specifically seek you out just to help with child custody?
Yeah. I do a lot of coaching for parents in custody situations.
Yeah.
We have a lot of mental health professionals in my area. I don't know how it is in your area.
Yeah.
The problem is the cost. The cost is not always affordable, but it's money well spent. It would be better to have family counseling. Get the best counselor you can find. Have some sessions of family counseling, and now they have it virtually, so it's easier than ever to find affordable counselors. I would much rather see a family spend money on that than on an attorney. I mean, when you're going to the attorney, it's almost always too late. When you see a problem, you can't live in denial. Whatever the problem is, you've got to agree it's a problem and find a way to address the problem.
I mean, the thing is too that's sad, is that divorce rates are going to be plus 50% for second marriages, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
We can work really, really hard at trying to help prevent these things. They're going to happen. So, there is a service that's needed from somebody like you. We do appreciate. It's different. I mean, I have met many attorneys that there's not good bedside manner, and I don't feel like, there's, the interest of me is definitely not what's being looked at. And so, knowing that, you're giving us advice, you're giving our listeners, our viewers advice in a way pretty much that is against hiring you, which we appreciate because in all reality,
it's what's best for them.
It's what's best for them, and so that is appreciative.
So before we ask you to list to our listeners, like how they can reach you, how they can contact you, Josh and I did look up your book. You wrote a book called Divorce Reality Check, and we do know that it's available on Amazon. Mm-hmm. But when you wrote it, it was 2016.
Yeah, I think it's 2016.
That's right.
Yeah, 2016. And I loved the little tag on that you put to it, for civility in there, for all the different C words that you used, for the book. And I'm like, wow, I really liked the title of that book too. So I'm sure it was all the experience that you had, but when you initially wrote that book, what was your vision for that? That you wanted it to help people?
Yeah, thank you for mentioning my book. It actually sells very well on Amazon, and it's meant to be a practical heads up, a reality check for people going through divorce, a little bit of an insider's view of how much control people have to potentially resolve things out of court, to understand that there's a high level of predictability on what goes on in court. In New York, we have no fault divorce. All parents get joint custody. We can pretty much agree, most lawyers, in advance how assets are going to be divided, unless we're talking about very high net worth or complicated scenarios. There really is no good reason to go into court in most cases. And the cases that go into court tend to be with people with very high degrees of anger, or they're unreasonable, or obviously there are cases with hidden assets or child abuse or domestic violence.
Yeah.
Most of the cases don't fall into those categories. And I usually use the 80-20 rule. 80% of people can stay out of court if they really try to take the high road, do the right thing by their children, and follow the advice of their attorneys. There's very little reason to roll the dice and go to court, especially now post-pandemic or almost post-pandemic, most courts are very slow. And most cases that go into court are going to be in court for years. So why would you do that? I mean, why would you do that to yourself or your family? It's so toxic and stressful. I do, as I said before, maybe before we started, I think most people would benefit by slowing down their decision to get divorced. There's nothing wrong with doing a legal separation first, because some marriages can be saved, and legal separation is a good place to maybe stay for a year or two before you make a decision to end the marriage. You should always be mindful of how divorce affects children. Put them first. Most parents love their children and want to do the right thing by them. They need to have advisors and guidance from people that will reinforce that message, that there's a way out of this. You can do this with dignity and common sense. You don't have to, this doesn't have to be a war. There can be win-win outcomes where everyone walks away feeling like a winner. You don't want to handle your money to lawyers either. And there are plenty of people that do. And I don't mean to knock my colleagues in the matrimonial bar. We're in business. We're here to help people. And people are responsible for who they hire and the decisions they make. So it really falls on the client and the decisions they make.
Well, we appreciate your time. We appreciate all of the caring and the loving that you give your clients, and that you're sharing your insider stuff that's you have for all these years of experience. So, but if we wanted to get a hold of you, if we our listeners or viewers wanted to contact you or see what you have going on, if you have a blog, if you have all these things going on, what would be the best way for them to get a hold of you?
So I love to connect with other professionals on LinkedIn. I really do share a lot of material and blogs on LinkedIn. My website is lawjaw.com, LAWJAW.com. I'm the managing partner of Wisselman, Harounian Family Law. We offer a free consultation for anyone who asks. A lot of it is on Zoom. A lot of people come into our office, and there are people even from out of state that need referrals, that need help. We are in a position to provide help to a lot of people in different situations. That's awesome. So anyone who thinks I can help, we're here to help.
That is wonderful. I'll make sure to put everything down in the show notes as well. So if you want to contact Jackie and her firm, that you can do that. I love that you mentioned that you do it over Zoom or even out of state to help referrals. That just to me is just a high level of service. And so we just really want to appreciate your time that you've given us. And we look forward to maybe having you on in the future again.
I'll come back anytime you ask. If there's anything else you want to talk about, I would definitely look forward to that opportunity. And you guys are an amazing couple. I know you're remarried, you've had challenges, and I think that gives a lot of hope to people that there are happier chapters ahead. No, marriage is not meant to be someplace where people suffer. It's meant to be joyful and loving. And I think more people should stay married if they can. But if they can't and they have to move forward, the two of you are certainly great role models for a happily ever after.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that.
Nice to meet you both.
Yeah, same. We want to thank you so much for being here for this episode today. What an amazing opportunity it really was to have her on, for her to take out some personal time and be able to share with us about all that stuff. I mean, this is one of these episodes you can go back through and re-listen. There's so many little gold nuggets, that's in there that we can all learn and grow from. So,
and it's a family law attorney that helps families stay married. That's kind of ironic.
That's powerful.
That's awesome.
I mean, like we said during the show, divorce rates are high, and for them to change drastically is probably not going to happen as much as we would love that to happen.
Right.
So it's not that Jackie's going to go out of business anytime soon, but what does make the difference, though, is Jackie serves the person, right? She serves the person. She doesn't just go and do a job. And that's why we wanted her on so bad. That's why we enjoyed having her on so much, is that she really wants to serve her clients at the highest level. She wants what's best for them. And I love how much she talked about kids. Like, it's just so much. Like, it was just a really good interview. So do you have anything else you want to say before we shut it down?
Communication.
All the important stuff.
Take the high road. All of that stuff.
Yeah.
All the stuff that we say all the time.
All the things.
We're just really getting, references to show you guys how right we already are.
You're welcome. We're just going to be after every episode. We're just like, I told you so. We told you so.
Now my face is turning red.
We're joking. But we hope you really did get some value out of this. And we're going to leave everything in the show notes, the contact information for Jackie. Listen, she's there to serve you.
Yeah.
I think the worst thing we can do is think to ourselves, I shouldn't contact an attorney because I'm afraid of how much it's going to cost. Don't do that. Don't allow that to stop you. She can help you not just with divorce. She's a family law attorney. She is a wealth of knowledge. So make sure that if you have any questions that you just reach out to her no matter where you live in the country.
Yeah.
All right. So we excited for that for today, and we look forward to seeing everybody next Tuesday at 7.
Bye.